With only 3 days left in my trip, I travelled to Lisbon, Sintra and Óbidos on a journey back through time to discover more about Portugal's rich history.
Soon.
5:05. Need to try and make it to the metro and then the aquarium before it closes at 7.
Naturally, arriving at 5 PM when I only had 3 days in the country's capital city, with day trips planned as well, things were always going to be a little jam-packed. But one of my goals that I had been hoping to squeeze in was a visit to the Lisbon Oceanarium.
And hopefully it is nice and cool inside, because at the moment it's very hot. We can see there's a little dude who's drowning out there. It's North Atlantic, I believe. This place smells so fishy.
The main setup for the aquarium involved 4 sections dedicated to different oceans: the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian and Southern Oceans.
No one's telling us to do this. I just do this all day. Indian Ocean. They really are swimming so close to the surface. Beautiful sea fans. I know this guy. I've bought one of these before. This year the sunfish is supposed to be the big exhibit.
But central to these 4 arms was a massive exhibit in the middle, containing the Lisbon Oceanarium's claim to fame, and the reason why I wanted to visit. The mola, also known as the sunfish, a strange flat-looking fish that can grow up to massive sizes, although I had heard that the one in the Lisbon Oceanarium had died, and so they had to get a baby as a replacement.
I suppose it's very small. He's coming. He's on his way. I read an article or something that the big one passed away, so this might be the baby replacement. That's doing his best.
Outside of the main aquarium was also this temporary exhibit, Forests Underwater, which had been curated by a famous aquarist, Takashi Amano. After a quick Macca's stop because of the sweltering heat, I took a train to my accommodation near Marquis de Pombal's statue. On the historical theme, Mr. Marquis was a political figure known for helping to modernise and rebuild Lisbon after an earthquake in 1755, but also for some more despotic actions, including the expulsion of the Jesuits, which we'll come to later.
So far, everything I've seen with this city has been very modern. But yeah, the metro system was very good. I was a bit worried looking on Google Maps all the times for travelling anywhere were very long. I think it's just because the city's big. The metro seems to be very efficient, to be quite honest, and easy to navigate as well. Alright, checking into the hotel room. This is absolutely great. Considering the reviews and that it's a one-star hotel, this is like more than I could have asked for. I've got a little balcony view. Not much to see. I'm very tired, but there's no time to waste. I have to get going. Gotta try and go to Belem before it gets too late.
Going back to the topic of Marquis de Pombal, the Jesuits were a male religious order with significant political influence over education, science and mission work, which attracted the ire of Marquis, who expelled them from the country altogether. 75 years later, in 1834, following the Portuguese Civil War, the new secular government issued an order that now banned all other male religious orders as well. One of the consequences of this was that Catholic monks living in the Jeronimos monastery, who owned the recipe for the pastel de nata, or Portuguese tart, then handed it over to the nearby bakery, now famously known as Pastéis de Belem.
I had to pretty much go here as quickly as I could. I managed to get two. It closes in about 20 minutes, so I was very lucky too. But you can see even at 10 o'clock in the evening, it's still very popular. We can see it's right next door to the Jeronimos monastery, which is where the recipe supposedly comes from. I'm just going to sit on a bench in this park to finish this. We found ourselves a nice quiet little bench. So it's come in this little packaging. They've given me 2 packs of icing sugar as well. Take the first one out. It is still nice and hot. The crust kind of broke a little bit. That's from me holding it. I can't say I've ever tried a warm Portuguese tart before. This next one I'm gonna try with some icing sugar. And when I say some, I mean like I've accidentally dumped it all over. I'd say even with the icing sugar, it's still less sweet than the ones I'm used to having, like at home from like Costco or something. Look, I'd say that lived up to the wait. You can see why it's very popular. Of course, it being the original location, like authentically, so that also helps, but yeah. Now the monastery, this is huge. Like based on all the photos and stuff, I had no idea it was this big. The iPhone camera just can't quite capture exactly how it looks. But you can still see, it's still clearly bright enough to see all of the detail. And I mean, I'm sure if I came during the day, you wouldn't get to just stand right in front of it like this. I'm sure this would be packed with lines and stuff. And these here, I think, are the cloisters that you'd have to pay even extra on top of the usual fee to go inside of.
The monastery itself is a famous example of 16th century Manuelan architecture, named after King Manuel, who had funded the project and designated the Hieronymite monks to occupy the monastery and pray for the seafarers leaving the nearby port during the Portuguese Age of Discovery. This was a style of architecture that followed on from Gothic style, but incorporating maritime elements and symbols of the overseas discoveries that had been made.
And this is what I'm heading for. Obviously the worst possible angle, but this is another thing which, based on the photos, I had no idea it would be this huge. It's actually ginormous.
The monument to the discoveries, constructed last century, sits along the Tagus River as a tribute to the Portuguese Age of Discovery, the 15th and 16th century period during which Portugal's maritime prowess allowed the small nation to build an empire, with the discovery of previously uninhabited lands such as Madeira, the Azores and Cape Verde, but also the establishment of colonies in far-reaching areas such as Brazil, Angola, Mozambique, Goa in India, and even Nagasaki. The 33 figures on the monument include Henry the Navigator, a prince who sponsored many of these early developments, and Vasco da Gama, who sailed around the Cape of Good Hope to create a new route linking Portugal to the spice trade in India. I know you're not meant to leave your phone lying around in Lisbon. This is probably the only way to show the scale. Come to our last attraction, which is under construction, Tower of Belem, where the ships heading out would leave and where they would be welcomed back. The Tower of Belem, unfortunately under construction at this time, was the point of embarking and disembarking for explorers travelling by the Tagus River, also at rare times serving as a fortification to protect the mouth of the river and thus the city. With the monastery, the tower and the monument all in close proximity to each other, along the bank of the same river through which returning ships bearing foreign gold would sail, this district of Belem was a remarkable place to get a glimpse into the history of the Portuguese Golden Age and the peak of the country's power. While many of its colonies were more trading posts, without as much inward land expansion, the Portuguese Empire was the first and last European colonial empire, only ending in 1999 with the handover of Macau. Anyway, with that, it is about 10:30. I haven't had dinner, I forgot again. I think I'm gonna have to skip out on having a proper dinner and go to like whatever restaurant is open near the hotel. Oh my goodness, there's a baby. They do have a nest in there. Cheep, cheep, cheep. 11:40 and I'm walking to get to the supermarket before it closes at 12. You know, at least I can say that here's something where the price compared to in Australia is a lot cheaper. Maybe like half the price pretty much, I'd say. This was like, can't remember off the top of my head, around €6 basically. I know it's literally just like an HSP, but this is delicious. It's a new morning. We have had a late start to the day. It's 10:30. Day 2 was dedicated to a day trip to Sintra, 1 hour north of Lisbon, famous for its romantic era Pena Palace, but also the Moorish castle built by the Muslim rulers of Al-Andalus, while they occupied the region for about 400 years, from the 8th to the 12th century. And there we go, Rossio Station. Beautiful station. You can see all of these paintings. Sintra. Now the Pena Gardens Palace and the Moorish Castle are closed due to fire risk. I did know this coming into it, but that's okay because I found a viewpoint on Google Maps where I'll be able to see them. Yeah, so essentially my plan is to walk away from the crowds to this viewpoint, which is hopefully going to be quiet, and have a look at the castle from afar. And so there's the Quinta de Regularia, which was probably actually the thing I was most keen for. That one's not open on Wednesdays, but hopefully you can still like go around the outside of it. I mean, here I'm kind of just walking across the train overpass and you can already see one of the castles. I know a lot of people who didn't know about the fires have turned up in the past couple of days, been disappointed, and then been like, oh, well, there's nothing to do anymore, and just gone home. But I think we can make the most of it. One thing I have noticed about here, and also parts of Lisbon, compared to Porto, is the houses are very colourful. I feel like Porto is mostly like the white house, red roof, classic. But here they're very colourful. Okay, walk is now taking me up this staircase. It's 350 meters away, but it's so steep.
a 1.2 kilometer walk has become very long, and there's no one else here at all. But you can see that we're gonna get some good views of Sintra town. Time to pose for a selfie with Portuguese ladder pole. Not a single soul inside. So that walk has cooked me. I need to take some time to sit down and relax. But we can see Pena Palace. I believe that would be the Moorish castle, therefore. Google Maps did not lie. We can see it very clearly there.
Pena Palace, famous for its bright red and yellow colours, was constructed in 1854 as a summer home for the Portuguese royal family, and is probably the most iconic structure in Sintra. Entry to the palace itself and the surrounding hill today was closed because of fire risk, but usually it's known to have long lines of people waiting to see the inside, although the outside is still the most famous image, which we were able to see clearly today.
Now the way down is obviously going to be a little bit easier. So the National Palace is still open, which is essentially a museum, I believe. They would have had of the city and then the castle.
The National Palace of Sintra is not one of its more famous attractions, but with the big stars closed due to the fires, it offers a well-preserved lens into what was once the residential living space for the ruling royals, including the Islamic rulers back in the Moorish period, with elements of Moorish architecture blended together with Gothic and Manueline styles.
Lovely view, but you'd have to imagine it would get boring after a while. Like, you just come out and look outside and that's it. Don't get too hungry, so I decided to get a chorizo baguette and another pastry. Now walking to the last stop, Quinta da Regulera. 10 minutes of walking here and then, I don't know, probably half an hour to walk back. That looks like it might be Quinta in the distance there.
Quinta da Regulera was the attraction that caught my eyes the most when I initially planned to visit Sintra. I was quite disappointed that it was closed today, as I had been hoping to see the enigmatic initiation wells and spiral staircases on the interior, but was at least able to take in the Gothic style facade from the outside. Looking through the gates also offered another view of Pena Palace, this time with the yellow part showing. The Castle of the Moors dates back to the 8th century when much of Iberia, including all of Portugal, was under Muslim rule. These lands would later be reclaimed during the reconquista, with the castle serving as an important strategic point, but the 400 years of Islamic influence in southern Portugal, compared to roughly 150 years for the north, is believed to be one of the contributors to the discrepancy in religiosity and Christianity between north and south.
We are Trying to walk to one of the famous viewpoints to get a view of the city. It's about 5 o'clock back in Lisbon now. Essentially my plan is Tram 28, viewpoint and Fado for dinner. In no particular order. I'm still trying to work that out based on how busy things are and how long it takes to get around. Yeah, it's just hill and staircase after hill and staircase. What is this? What on earth is this? I can't take any more staircases. And it says 200-meter walk, but the 200 meters is like this. I have a feeling that it's gonna be worth it.
Back in Lisbon, I now had one evening to cram in all the activities that most people would normally take days to do, starting with this scenic viewpoint.
It's a very disorganized city, but very vast, expansive. It goes out so far. The horizon's kind of blocked by the cloud cover and the sun, but it goes out so far, and there's not too many skyscrapers really. It's very small now. Just look out and try and make sense of something. Then you see something like this where you do have a bit of a row of houses, but other than that, like everything is just random. Anyway, it's 5:40. It's too far away to wait for sunset, so like a change in the scenery, and also too far away for the Fado houses to be open yet. So I think I will make my way down and see if we can catch the tram.
The tram I referenced here is Tram 28, one of the most touristy tram rides in Lisbon. I did actually end up walking down there, but then saw a queue extending for roughly 2 hours long, so I made the decision to come back later at night and to visit the Alfama district to listen to some Fado, a mournful musical genre originating from Lisbon.
Ai guitarra, quando a lua toda nua pela rua, doce amante, por um instante, deixa-me chorar contigo. Redondilha de amor para fazê-la, peço-me Deus a tinta do luar, a candeia suspensa de uma estrela, e o tinteiro pastíssimo do mar.
Amor e ciúme, cinzas e luz, dor e pecado.
Tudo isto existe, tudo isto é triste, tudo isto é feliz. Tudo isto existe,
Tudo isto é triste.
tudo isto é feliz.
It is yet another 20-minute walk, but the weather has chilled a little bit in the evening, so it's much more bearable. So overall, I was very happy with the choice of a Fado spot that I went to. They definitely made me feel welcome despite being a solo traveller. They put me on a table like right in front of the Fado singers. And then I felt like it was a good balance of like a bit of eating and then some singing and then a bit of eating, then some singing. They would have a break after like 4 or 5 performances so that you have a chance to go. You're not like trapped in there and you don't feel bad for, eating. And waiting at the front of the door was very nice to me. He called me by my name the entire time. And then he ended up being one of the singers. And it always sounds as though they are lamenting. They're lamenting something. I see the tram. I see a line as well. I don't think I can wait for this. I think we'll sit around, we'll watch 1 or 2 trams, take some photos, and that'll be all.
As I mentioned before, I dropped by early in the afternoon to check out Tram 28 after visiting the viewpoint, but after seeing these lines and the pace at which the trams were getting through them, hint, it was not very fast, I had decided to just take some photos, which you are seeing now, and then head off to the Fado house. Tram 28 is one of 5 remaining tram lines of the once extensive network that served Lisbon as public transport. Still used by locals as public transport, it is also extremely popular with tourists as it travels through old districts such as Alfama, Baixa, climbing and dropping down steep hills and rounding tight corners in a way that only a small wooden box of a tram can manage. The queues are known to get a little hectic during the day, but because it's public transport, Tram 28 actually continues running into the night, and I had heard that the crowds at that time might be more tolerable.
Walking back to give Tram 28 another go, walking through Alfama, and you can kind of hear Fado singers just in the distance in every second restaurant. Waited for about, I'd say 4 trams, got on the 4th one, not bad. Alright, just finished the ride. Time to go back home. I mean, look, riding at night, everything sort of comes out in a yellowish colour. So I feel like you do lose a bit of the colour of the city, but definitely I could not have waited in the sun for that long at 5 o'clock when I went there earlier. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, last morning in Lisbon, but I'm actually using it on a day trip to Obidos. So, checked out of the hotel, left my luggage in luggage storage, on my way to the train station to head to Campo Grande station.
Following a very specific set of instructions I had found online, I managed to board a bus heading to Obidos, a majestically preserved medieval village. This was a settlement that dates back to the Celtic period before the turn of the millennium, before changing hands to the Romans, with the Latin word for town, oppidum, giving rise to the town's name. It continued to change hands throughout the centuries to the Moors and then the Portuguese kings, and then for the last few centuries had been customarily held by the queens, gifted to them as part of their dowry.
Made it to Obidos, or as they seem to say, Obidos. So this is the main street of the village. There's a lot of stores. Those are selling this like sour cherry alcoholic shot that they have here.
One of the most special features of the town was its medieval walls and ramparts encircling the entire village, still accessible for anyone to walk along them and look down at imaginary enemies or subjects.
So here we can walk along the castle walls with nothing blocking. But there is nothing stopping us from falling down if we wanted to. So I used to stand in these nooks and then shoot arrows out at people. Okay, we continue our walk along. You can see the countryside out these little windows, and then up ahead we've got Obidos Castle. And as I said before, there is nothing standing in the way from just walking off the edge. See, this one would be perfect. You just chuck your bow through. You can hardly get shot through this crack, and you can just shoot down at everyone below. That would be my spot. It is very peaceful here. The main street is quite busy, but the walls are not that busy considering that they're probably the main attraction. There's still plenty of space to walk freely. Here we can see the aqueduct running all the way into the distance. As I reached Obidos Castle at the end of the walls, however, I was met with another surprise I had not planned for. For about 10 days in July each year, the town holds its medieval festival, and by chance, my visit had landed on one of those days. As soon as I entered, I heard a circus sort of performance starting. And then at some point he took his shirt off, I guess. Outside of that theatre were several stalls set up with medieval themed objects. I then saw these performers walking and decided to follow them to their show. This one seemed to be a comedy show, which of course started with milking the armpits of a Frenchman from the crowd. Lastly, I made my way down to the arena where there was supposed to be a showcase of some fighting in medieval armour.
As they explained, and as you will see in this demonstration, apparently combat back then was not as clean and artful as you might expect, but because of the heavy metal armour, was very rough and crude, often using brute force and fists and kicks to knock an opponent down, rather than swiftly dispatching them with a blade. We've left the sort of medieval Queen's Court area where the exhibition was, and now just walking through the main town, trying to get back. My last stop before taking the bus back, which lay outside the city walls, were the aqueducts, which I was quite disappointed to find out were not built by the Romans during their time here.
Extending all the way down.
I didn't know this at the time though, and so I'd taken these selfie videos thinking that I was touching a piece of Roman architecture.
Campo Grande station, with about half an hour to spare. So, you can have a look at Sporting Lisbon's stadium over here.
The bus that I had taken to and from Obidos left from Campo Grande station, which was also right outside the stadium for Sporting Lisbon. I was on a bit of a time crunch as I needed to head back to my hotel, collect my bags, go to another station, and then take the train to Porto all on the same day as this day trip, but decided to pay it a little visit.
A little athletics track around here. I can't say I have the ball knowledge to know any of these guys, unfortunately, but around the other way, that I remember seeing someone I know. We have it. Cristiano's gate inside floor 2. So we've got this sort of Kit Kat shake from Burger King. We're sitting upstairs with this view of Campo Grande station, although everything seems to be under construction. It's really nice. I've arrived just in time for the train 1 hour before my booked one. So goodbye to Lisbon, and then we only have 1 day in Porto before we leave the country for good. Salvento. My beloved Salvento.
And so, we were back where we'd started, in Porto, which now, coming back for the second time on this trip, felt like a familiar face. 2.5 days in Lisbon, including day trips to Obidos and Sintra, probably isn't enough time to dedicate to the country's capital, but I feel like I had managed to make the most of the short time. Now I was back in Salvento, though this time for my last night in Portugal, had booked a nice Airbnb which, to reach, required a beautiful evening uphill walk through the streets.
My accommodation leads me down this lovely little street. My luggage has been putting in a good shift on the cobbles. Turns out the tower is just about 100 meters away from my accommodation. Just checking into the accommodation after a very long walk. I spent extra on this one, and oh my goodness, look at the view. What's happening over there? Is that people? Look, on closer inspection, I think that is the bridge, and that is the garden, and this may just be standard evening at the garden. I thought it was a different garden because I couldn't see the bridge before. No, turns out that is quite possibly just your standard evening sunset in Porto. It's taken me this long to try, but Francis in. So after cutting into it, it does hold together a lot more than I thought. I thought it was very soft and soggy. I love this. This is my favourite dish so far. It's like the perfect guilty pleasure food. The melted cheese, you got meat, so much gravy. Cloudy morning today. I think it is time to say goodbye to this nice little place and goodbye to Porto and to Portugal as a whole. I'm going to be flying for the next 36 hours, so not exactly going to be home yet, but this will be the end of the intentional activities part of the trip. I have about 1 hour to kill between now and when I should start heading back here and then to the airport. So I'm going to try and go for a walk along the river, and my final meal I would like to try peri-peri chicken.
For my final meal in Portugal, I went to a restaurant called Churrasqueira à Brasa to try some peri-peri chicken, and found some live music playing in the square nearby, outside the Church of St. Ildefonso.
That song is a throwback.
My very last activity in Portugal, before heading to the airport to begin my 36-hour-long journey home, was to head back to the Dom Luís I Bridge, which I had visited on one of my first nights in Portugal and had been taken away by the view. I spent 11 days in Portugal in total, and in that time had managed to visit Porto, the Douro Valley, Aveiro, Funchal, Madeira and Ronaldo's birthplace, Lisbon, Sintra, Óbidos, and finally back to Porto again. I'd seen that Portugal had come a long way through time, from its rich Moorish and medieval history to the peak of its seafaring colonial power to the modern and bustling cities of today. And I had come a long way too. It had taken some meticulous planning to make the itinerary work, spending nights revising bus routes and train timetables. My legs had gotten a good workout and my sleep over the past few days had been shot. But it was my first solo trip, and who knows if I'll ever have the chance to travel myself again, or if ever I'll be back to Portugal, as special as it is to me now. And so, God willing, I will always hope to return someday. But for now, to Portugal and my beloved Cristiano, I say obrigado.